IDPs, as we call them in the human rights community, are, like you've said, people who are in a vulnerable situation due to either crisis, it could be ethnic conflict, communal conflict, or floods, natural disasters, or any other situation, like you've just mentioned. Government has a duty to provide relief, to remedy the situation, and to reintegrate them back into society. The Nigerian government has an agency called NEMA, which is responsible for the immediate relief of victims of a flood crisis. And we've seen NEMA doing a very good job. Almost every day where there's a crisis, you see that NEMA is there almost instantly, providing food, clothing, blankets, and materials. However, that's not enough. The International Convention for Displaced Persons and Victims of Displacement mandates all United Nations countries who are signatories, and Nigeria is a signatory, that where there's any number of displaced persons, government should ensure that they are reintegrated, rehabilitated, and reintegrated back into society. And that's why we have, under the Ministry of Special Duties, the National Commission for Refugees. National Commission for Refugees has, in the first place, been taking care of international refugees from other countries, but now they have allowed them to go back to their countries because they don't have wars there anymore, like Liberia and Sierra Leone. We had a lot from those countries in the past, but now most of their focus is on internally displaced persons. And their whole mission is to rebuild their homes of some victims, and then to ensure that these people are provided some skills acquisition or some income generating activities to help them reintegrate back into society. I believe that they will be doing more this year because the National Assembly has intervened in this matter.
I am intelligent.
I'm incisive.
I am passionate.
I am focused.
I am diplomatic.
I'm creative.
I am people-oriented.
I am logical.
I am detailed.
I am determined.
I am inquisitive.
I am trained.
You're welcome back to The Gavel. Now, a few weeks ago, the federal government released a white paper on the report of the Presidential Committee on Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Government Parastatals, Commissions and Agencies. Although the federal government rejected some of the recommendations in the Steve Oronsaye report, it accepted the recommendation of merging the Nigeria Airways Management Authority, NAMA, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, and the Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET. We sat down with the chairman, Senate Committee on Aviation, Senator Hope Uzodimma, to get his thoughts on this recommendation. Now, the Steve Oronsaye report has finally come out, and the presidency has already, selected some proposals in the report which will be implemented, one of which is the merger of the NCAA with some other aviation agencies. What are your thoughts? How do you feel about this merger?
We need to reach out to the larger spectrum of stakeholders and understand the workings in the industry. I didn't get the opportunity to speak to the Oronsaye committee, but I know that they cannot match the regulator with the operator. In the industry today, NCAA is the regulator. And you know that aviation is regulated globally. And the same business model that is obtainable in America, in Canada, in London, is what is expected to be obtainable here, going by the various conventions and agreements, going by the recommendations of ICAO, which is the umbrella body all over the world that is regulating really the aviation industry. I know that before we attend, some of the greatest achievement we've made in that industry today is the attainment of Cat 1 status by FAA of America. And a condition to the procurement of that Cat 1 the first condition precedent to each issuance was that you must have a regulatory body and there must be a legislation. And what is more, even when that legislation was put in place in 2006, the President of America then, President George Bush, wrote to our president, President Yaradua, requesting for his personal undertaking that the legislation and the NCA, that the regulatory body, will not be tampered with, will be autonomous, and will be given free hands to follow the guidelines and compliance method in the international market. Our president wrote, apart from concurring to that request, wrote a personal undertaking. The then president did a personal undertaking that NCAA will be autonomous, NCAA will be allowed to regulate the industry, and on the strength of that, the FAA visited Nigeria, did their audit, and then wrote out a report that led to the issuance of Cat 1 status. So what I think is that there's nothing to panic about so that we don't send wrong signal to the market. What I think we should do is to remain calm and then be able to put our information together. And when we present our reasoning, I'm sure all stakeholders, including the presidency, will buy into it. NIMET is an operator. FAN is an operator. NAMA is an operator. But NCA is the regulator. So the NCA is the referee that catches you when you have committed foul or when you are not playing according to the rules. So if you make them to have an interest, it means that you are not expecting them to catch themselves. So they have to be autonomous. We are even saying that the MCA should be be included in the first line charge, where their monies must come direct from the federation account. NCA is also an income earning agency because they collect royalties and taxes from operators.
Now, I know I keep on asking this question every time we see and we talk, and I say, since the report, the Dana report, was debated on the floor of the Senate and recommendations were made and passed, what has changed since that report was adopted by the Senate?
Going back to that report, I'm aware that at least over 50% of the recommendation of the Senate resolution have been carried out. And they are continuing, because looking at the appropriation of this year, we've seen that a lot of money is voted for training of aircraft engineers, inspectors, up to the expected standards by ICAO recommendations. So I think they are making efforts, very serious efforts, in ensuring that that report is completely implemented to the letter, because among other recommendations in that report, we have challenged the technical capacity of the NCAA staffing in terms of monitoring, compliance, inspecting the aircrafts, ensuring that safety is not compromised in all operations. So I think that so far, from what we've seen or what I know, the report is being implemented.
Now, we know some Nigerians have, if you go on social media, even by word of mouth, we've seen Nigerians complain about the attitude or treatment which they receive from airlines. You have airlines treating customers shabbily, keeping them waiting for hours endlessly at the airports, cancelling flights. Have these issues, have they been brought before your committee? And what is your committee doing about this?
Yeah, we've gotten complaints like this. But during our investigation, we also had cause to discuss with some of the airlines and some of our Nigerian passengers. One, the mentality of our passengers sometimes does not allow for proper discussion